Does everybody have their sheets?
Yep.
All right. We'll go over the store sales first.
Do you have disagreements about money within your family and within the business, and how do you handle that?
I know we do at the farm level. We're always, when we're arguing over what we're gonna, I mean, not knock down, drag out arguments, but we have different priorities we think we should be spending money on, and like, or different decisions we think like this, we're gonna be eliminate or cashing in on some of our young stock, taking on the market. That's been a big tension point between Patrick and I.
Argument.
And so we go back and forth. We had 3 snowstorms, plowable snowstorms this month, so we had extra money coming in from tractor work.
What are some helpful strategies for farm families to use to be able to effectively communicate about money within their household?
Basically, good communication skill involves whoever has the issue, let's say in a family meeting, that they would bring up a wish to make some purchase or to make some change. And the person who brings up the issue, the concern, then needs to be listened to. And if it's just between 2 parties in the family, that's a simpler model. But if it's within the family, with other members there, then whoever is facilitating the meeting, whoever has charge of that meeting, will have a big responsibility to be sure that they're heard without interruption.
They'll be adding a fuel surcharge now with the price of fuel going up.
In the delivery of what a person's issue is and what their concern might be, that it's stated more in an I statement rather than any blaming you. I really want to put an addition onto the house. Now, there may be a lot of reasons they have about that, and that has to be heard through before someone else in the family interrupts in terms of, well, we can't do that now, that'd be nice down the road. Because if there are too many of those kinds of interactions, there'll be frustration, there'll be blocking of somebody else's wishes. So whether it's a good idea or not, that it should be heard all the way through. Lots of listening. It should be 95% listening, 5% talking in terms of response to things. Then when everybody's heard, there might be some brainstorming in terms of different possibilities. A lot of that might have to do with planning in terms of the family life cycle. Where are they? And what's the financial piece that might match up to what prioritized needs might be? And it may be that what everyone's thoughts are about that get integrated into a final solution. There might be a longer term, bigger solution, or it might be something smaller. I find what's really important if a family is able to get through that kind of communication process, that toward the end, when they've come to some sort of at least provisional solution or agreement that they're going to try, and it may be as simple as doing more research about what it would cost to put this addition on or whatever it might be, that they congratulate one another. They might say something that they've appreciated about one another in that conversation. Maybe as simple as, really appreciate that I was heard all the way through, that you listened, that you made a real effort to understand, and maybe even that this felt different than other times, that might build upon the strengths and the resources to have that repeat itself for other issues. And then, of course, have some sort of follow-up meeting a week later, a month later, whenever makes sense, to see how this plan is going, or for people to report in about the research that they've done. Listening is key. Respect is key. And I think appreciation is really key. It's so easy in families for people to take one another for granted and forget to express the appreciation.
My experience is that we get the drive-by communications or the ambush models, where Dad's walking through the living room and says, I don't know what we're going to do. We need a new tractor, and that's the truth. There's no other way we're going to manage this. And continues on for wherever he goes. We don't know. And everybody's sort of left there. it's provocative. It becomes an emergency, a crisis. Everyone scrambles to defend their resources. So does that mean I don't go to school? What about that car? Am I getting the prom dress? All those kinds of things. But these sort of incendiary sort of statements, which are more, I think, often the ones that get people in trouble, because they're impulse driven, and they're passionate. It doesn't mean the individual. It's not that it isn't a valid issue, but that it becomes that more offhand, casual, oh by the way model, and that's where I think they get into a lot of trouble. Utilizing the model that you're talking about. It's deliberate. There's a place for it, there's a time for it, there's a process for it, there's a way that it gets wrapped up, and then there's another part that I would even add to that, which is there's a documentation to it. That in these kinds of meetings or in these kinds of engagements, then there really needs to be a writing, I think. Even if it's a sentence or a paragraph about what was decided in a loose leaf binder. Because words just move into the air. They become gaseous, and they weren't said that way, they weren't meant that way. You often wonder if you even were in the room. So that there's some kind of documentation. Again, I'm not trying to overly structure this, but some documentation says, here's where we were, here's what we did, here's what we decided. And some of the parts of it might be, we didn't decide. We came up with 3 or 4 options, and we were unclear, we're going to revisit this. But that there's an order to it. And just the writing piece of what, again, commits people to thinking deliberately and adds a seriousness to it. I think the model you described is an exquisite model. And when you can get families to utilize that model, they're amazed at how successful they are. That the conflict, or a good portion of it, really evaporates. Perhaps not right away, but ultimately there's more that people have in common than they do in opposition of one another.
I decided that, listening to Pat, his justification for doing it, we can't do everything always the way I do, or the way Mike wants to do it, or the way he wants to do it, but we give and take.
What recommendations would you give to decrease disagreements about money within the farm family?
I think one of the key things that can help to prevent arguments about money in a family is just real open communication. Make sure people understand when and how the dollars flow through that operation. When are they available? When are they needed? And why? I think if we communicate between family members who are involved with the business and family members who are not, a lot of problems can be resolved.
For more information about family farm finances, go to familyfarmfinances.net.